For those who don't know me, I'm Barbara Gearman. You would normally find me cooking your meals in Roberston during the summertime, but as you know, this summer is different and we don't have camp this year. If you bought a Camp in the Box, you received some fun activities in there, some toys, but most importantly, you received a devotional on Philippians and a journal. So we're going to go sit down and do our first devotion together. If you didn't buy Camp in a Box, that's okay. Like I said, we're focusing on Philippians, so you can join along with us. Okay, let's start our first devotion. If you open your devotional to page 1, we're going to be doing week 1, the first day. If you haven't read Philippians 1 yet, I would encourage you to do that and then come back to this video. Get your journals out and a pen and pencil so that you can take notes. First thing we want to talk about is what is joy. If you look up the definition of joy, you will read that joy is a feeling of great pleasure and happiness. Write down some things that bring you joy. In my journal, I wrote that my family, my friends, Camp Lebanon, and Jesus. Those are on my list. What brings me joy? As you read and study Philippians, you will read about Paul's joy. Paul was really filled with joy, but not because of his circumstances or what was happening in his life. As he writes this letter, he is in prison and he is in chains for Christ. Verse 13 says he is in chains for Christ. But what do you think would be on Paul's list for what brought him joy? I think that Paul would have written down Jesus as number 1. I think that he would have written knowing that others were hearing the gospel because of his imprisonment would bring him joy. But I also think his friends, like the Philippians, that helped him on his mission to bring the gospel to others, they would bring him joy also. Did you have Jesus on your list? If you didn't, I hope that someday you will. Along with your devotion, you received a joy page. If you colored it, that's fine. If you haven't, you might want to use that to jot down some key points from Philippians, maybe some verses that stick out to you. I already put one of my favorite verses on there from Philippians. Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Thank you for joining us on our first devotion. Stay tuned. Check back on Friday when we will have a Vespers service posted and a meditation from our friend Oscar from Latino Camp.